before I start this video, I have a few things to address as myself. First of all, even though the title says everyone, I don't literally mean everyone, as in I'm literally the only person who likes these episodes. It's just a figure of speech. Now, second of all, there are going to be spoilers in this video, and I don't want to assume that everyone who is watching this video or all of my subscribers have watched these episodes that I'm going to talk about. Now, even though you're going to watch it, I encourage you guys to watch these episodes just to develop your own opinion on it. You don't have to like it just because I like it. You just develop your own opinion. You can like it or dislike it. You don't even have to watch it if you don't want to. It's just something I encourage you guys to do. Anyways, I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments below about the episodes I'm going to talk about. If you like them, if you dislike them, if you agree with me, disagree, etc. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's start the video. Hello, everypony. I'm BrickBrony1894, and I have some confessions to make. There are some episodes of MLP that I almost feel ashamed for liking because a majority of the fandom hates those episodes. I guess being in a minority is a consequence of being optimistic. Anyways, these are the top 10 MLP episodes that I like but everyone else hates. Number 10, One Bad Apple. Okay, I haven't seen all the Cutie Mark Crusader episodes, but I'll tell you what, even though this episode is on the list, I still like Flight to the Finish, Sleepless in Ponyville, Twilight Time, and Ponyville Confidential much better. But that doesn't mean that I can't give this episode some credit. Now, the thing that probably shuts down the episode for a lot of people, but I might be wrong here, is that the CMC did not tell Applejack what was going on, and that telling an adult doesn't always work. Well, for one thing, Babs put Apple Bloom and the rest of the CMC under pressure for having the idea for telling on her. When I was in middle school, I got picked on for being a tattletale, as many people call it. And the idea of telling an adult and just tattletaling can be misunderstood. Speaking of Babs Seeds, I was able to empathize with her as she was shown to be uncomfortable with not having her cutie mark yet, which AJ eventually pointed out later. It was only a matter of time before the CMC figured that out. Speaking of which, the CMC learned that just because someone treats you poorly doesn't mean that you should treat them the same way. It's just like Jesus said, do unto others as you would have unto you. I think that was the moral of this story, but I might just be looking at it differently. Now, the song, yeah, I didn't listen to it, but that's just me. So anyways, this episode was just more okay than good. Number 9. Games Ponies Play. Yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of Dave Polsky on this list soon. Games Pony Play was predictable, but that doesn't automatically make it bad. Was it silly though? Yeah, pretty much. But still, I like this episode, especially for the comedy. But I also liked how selfless Rainbow Dash was when she wanted the Crystal Empire to have the Equestria Games after experiencing the disappointment of not having the Equestria Games in Cloudsdale. Plus, it was nice to see Twilight and Cadence interact with each other, although we would get to see more of that later in Three's a Crowd. So, as silly and predictable as this is, I still enjoy it for the comedy and the heart. Number 8. Rainbow Falls. Honestly, I feel like this episode deserves much more credit than what was given. And no, it's not because of Derpy. Mainly. Though I was happy for those who celebrated her triumphant return. The main reason why I like this episode is because, yep, it's a Rainbow Dash episode. I was grabbed by Rainbow's internal conflict as she struggles between friends and winning. And it was a good thing that she chose her friends in the end. Now, about the Wonder Bolts. Yes, I am aware that what they were doing was wrong. Though honestly, I saw it more as competitive ambition rather than just pure evil. Besides, I liked that Wonder Bolts learned from their past mistakes and they apologized. And it was a good thing that Soren forgave them for what they did. That was the right thing to do. So anyways, about Bulk Biceps and Fluttershy. The comedy in this episode was okay with Bulk Biceps and Fluttershy. It's not anything hysterically funny, but I take what I can get. I may give a full review of this episode later on in the future. Maybe. But anyways, I like this Rainbow Dash episode. While I probably wouldn't like it as much as Read and Weep or Sonic Rain Boom, it was still a good episode. Number 7. The Equestria Games. Now, I know everyone is disappointed because we didn't really get to see much of the Equestria Games, even though we got all that build-up to it. But honestly though, I'm grateful for what we did get to see with the Equestria Games. And also, it was nice to see the character development of Rainbow Dash since Rainbow Falls. Now, there was definitely humor in this episode, which is what I expect from Dave Polsky. Well as other writers, of course. Now, were there some silly parts? Yeah. Some from Spike, and some that I really don't want to talk about. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this scene. Of course, Spike learns a good moral about self-esteem. So, yeah, I consider this a good Spike episode. Kinda like this next one right here. Number 6. Power Ponies. This episode was awesome. As a superhero fan, I enjoyed the action in this episode, especially with the homage to other superheroes, Pinkie Pie being the Flash, Rainbow Dash being Thor, Applejack being Batman and Wonder Woman, Clever giving the lasso of truth to the element of honesty, Rarity being Green Lantern, or technically Star Sapphire, Twilight being, supposed to be Cyclops, and Fluttershy being the Hulk. Yeah, if you saw my top 5 craziest Fluttershy moments, you know how I feel about this. Anyways, the action was good. The fight scenes were okay, but they were still pretty good. And I loved how Spike became a hero in the end. Seriously though, I hated how sidekicks are stereotyped nowadays for being completely useless. But this isn't the only superhero-themed episode in the show, and the next one gets a lot more hate. Number 5. The Mysterious Mirror Duel. Now, I already talked about this episode in a previous video, so I'm just gonna be brief about this. I don't think this episode was that bad. I understand the flaws of this episode, but I am able to look at them in a different viewpoint and find good things in them. Kinda like the superhero themes, of course. However, there's a mistake I made I might as well talk about. Ryan Rhino Mills pointed this out in my comparison to Rainbow Dash's behavior post-Mirror Duel to Jesus. He said that it was a bit of an exaggeration, and yeah, I can see that. What I was trying to say was that Rainbow Dash was becoming more Christian-like, doing what Jesus would do. And yeah, I probably should have stuck with the Spider-Man comparison, because in some stories, I said some stories, Spider-Man is shown to be maturing as he learns from past mistakes. Besides, who's to say that Spidey's not a Christian? What I'm trying to say is that Rainbow Dash is growing up in maturity and morality, which is why I don't consider Wonderbolt Academy an apology for this episode, but rather a sequel to this episode. Number 4. Griffin the Brush-Off. You know, I don't really get why this episode is hated a lot. I thought it was pretty good. For one thing, I loved how Pinkie Pie was portrayed in this episode, where she wants to have fun and share with others, and she knows her limits, when she considered Fluttershy's sensitivity, which she would forget in another episode later on. And yes, Rainbow Dash was also a highlight of this episode. Granted, she was a little bit rude in the beginning, but she makes up for it when she stands up for her friends against her old friend Gilda. Speaking of Gilda, I liked her as a villain in this episode. And while I would want to see her return in Season 5, I really don't know if that's gonna happen. It's possible though. But anyways, this episode made me laugh even to hysterics. Most of the time. Some of the jokes just came off as just silly. But that's probably just me. Anyways, this episode really made me like Pinkie Pie. Though, again, she would be made unlikable later on. Number 3. The Last Roundup. No, it's not because of Derpy's cameo, though it was cute, even though they changed her voice and removed her name. But besides from that, everything else about this episode was good. While this episode was predictable, that we would all know that Applejack didn't win first place in any of the rodeos, there was still a lot of fun along the way. There were good scenes of comedy, like this scene right here.
Make it stop! Make it stop!
The only way to make it stop is for you to spill the beans.
Never!
Speaking of beans, did you ever realize how many words rhyme with beans? Lean, mean, spleen, unclean, bean.
All right. I'll tell every pony what's going on. Just please stop talking.
An action-packed chase scene, and predictability, my Lego brick cutie mark! So yeah, this was a pretty good Applejack episode. Matthias Unidosers reviewed it, and he thinks it's his favorite. I'll put a link in the description to his review of it. Moving on! Number 2, Keep Calm and Flutter On. Another Polsky episode. Besides Hurricane Fluttershy, this, in my opinion, is the best Fluttershy episode. For one thing, Discord was funny in this episode, with all the chaos he creates. Also, I sensed some Christian themes in the episode, with Fluttershy being kind to Discord despite what he's done in the past. It eventually led to Discord realizing that his friendship with Fluttershy actually meant something to him, because he never had friends until then. While I was a little bit uncomfortable with how the rest of the main 6 were acting, I could understand that, considering that it's Discord.
You mean turning Ponyville into the chaos capital of the world?
And tricking us all into being the opposite of our true selves.
And making yummy, delicious chocolate milk rain all over the place without a single dollop of whipped cream to go with it anywhere in sight! Not a single dollar!
Besides, without this episode, I don't think we've had an awesome Season 4 finale. So yeah, this episode was a pretty good Fluttershy episode. Number 1, Daring Don't. Polsky, you just don't ever get a break, do you? This episode has become one of my most favorites. For one thing, I love how Rainbow Dash's character has developed since Read and Weep, another one of my most favorite episodes, as she has become a huge fan of the Daring Do book series. Speaking of Daring Do, while most people were turned off by A.K. Yearling actually being Daring Do, I found it to be a nice plot twist, because we would be getting more of an action-packed adventure. While there were a few things I could nitpick about, I really enjoyed this episode. There's great comedy that makes me laugh every time, excellent and well-paced action scenes, and a good moral. Or 2 good morals. Anyways, this episode was awesome! So, those were my top 10 episodes of MLP that I like, but everyone else hates. Now, of course, these are just my opinions, and everyone's entitled to them. Some people might like episodes more than others, some might like them even less than others. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please comment, like, and subscribe. God bless, and I'll see you guys later!